Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. I'm Mark, this is Spiguyver Backpacking, and today we are doing the first video of the coffee test series, the best coffee on the trail type series. And today what we'll be looking at is this. This is the nCamp Cafe Coffee Maker. And this is what we're going to be getting into today, checking out and putting through its paces, brewing up some coffee and testing it out here out in the woods. So let's get this thing going. Let's go. Okay, so thanks for coming back. Let's talk a little bit about this nCamp Cafe Coffee Maker. Now this is a Moka pot style coffee maker, and by that you have a reservoir down in the bottom right here. So this reservoir holds the water, heats it up. On one side it has a pressure relief valve so that too much pressure doesn't build up in there. Inside of this bottom container there is a little basket for coffee, and so you'll put the coffee grounds in there, screw the top on, heat up the water. That water pressurizes, pushes it up through a filter, a metal filter that's in there permanently. And then inside of the top reservoir, there is a little tube that comes up. That pressurized water goes up through that basket of your grounds, up through, and comes out and lands in this reservoir as coffee. So it's kind of like a percolator system, and anybody who's done a Moka pot before, this is essentially a Moka pot. Now it does perform a little bit differently than a Moka pot. The Moka pots kind of come out very smooth, they just flow out. This one starts flowing but then does a lot of spitting, but still produces a pretty decent cup of coffee. So why don't we get this thing set up? So it comes like this, and it has a coffee cup that comes with it that nests right on it pretty conveniently, and it sits on there pretty, it's pretty secure. Will come off pretty easily when you pull on it, and it's got a silicone lip on it. Everything here is made of stainless steel, so it's built to withstand some abuse and really hold up to camping and taking it out in the backcountry. Now it is designed for camping, and that's why I went with this one rather than the traditional Moka pot. The traditional Moka pots are bigger around and are multi-sided. They've got a lot of square edges, and they're very bulky. Now this is not small, and it's not all that light, but it does pack down to a much more condensed, packable thing. You can fit that in a backpack pretty much any way you want. If you wanted to in the water bottle pocket, you could do that, no problem at all. Okay, so let's talk about the weight of this product. So right here, the way that it sits with the cup on there, this thing weighs in 653 grams, which is 23.05 ounces. So not super light. If you take off the cup and take it just like this, that cuts it down to 491 grams or 17.35 ounces. So it definitely cuts the weight down quite a bit. So why don't we get this thing going, and I'll show you guys what we're dealing with. Okay, so the way that this thing works, some people will tell you you just put in cold water and heat it up. I'm going to tell you that's not the best way to do it. I have been experimenting a lot with this. I have brewed probably 30 cups of coffee with this to find the best way to do it, the best grounds, the best coffee. And so what I've come up with is about 25 grams. I just ground this about 20 minutes ago, so it is very freshly ground. 25 grams will just about fill up that basket. I don't like it too full because then that basket sits in there and it sits against this metal filter and it kind of compresses it, and then you don't get quite as good a cup of coffee. Additionally, I don't just pour the water into here and heat this up on the stove right away. So what I will do is you're supposed to fill it to just below that pressure relief valve. So inside, you have a pretty good view of that pressure relief valve. You can see it right there on the side. So I'll fill it up just below there. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually use my normal pot to heat up the water. So I'm gonna heat it up, not quite to a boil, but till it's pretty warm, and then I'm gonna put it back in and switch them out. So let me get this going, and we'll come back when I've got this warmed up. All right, so I've got the water on here, and it has bubbles in the bottom. It's warm. It's starting to get about to the temperature that I want it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna turn off the heat, take it off. There we go. Pour it into here. Now this is gonna get hot. This is actually gonna get pretty warm. And so that's why I have this still out. So I'm gonna pick this up where it's not hot, put it in there. Now 25 grams of coffee looks about like that. So not quite full, but enough. Then you drop that right in there. Now you take the top and you screw it pretty tightly on. You want it so that it's gonna be pretty airtight. I like to find a spot where my thumb is against that pressure relief. Now we can set it right on the stove. Get that stove going. And we don't want a super high heat. We want it to come to a boil, but we don't want it under a super high heat. And the reason, so some of you guys are probably asking right now, why did I preheat the water if I'm just gonna have this on there? The reason is I don't want to scorch the coffee. Too much heat coming up the sides, going through that basket before the water is actually pushing through there is not what I want. So we're gonna let this thing start brewing, and I'll show you guys what it looks like. Okay, now at this point, we've got a pretty full thing of coffee. And I would, if I'm not gonna drink this all right now, I would go ahead and cool this down by pouring water on it, setting it in a creek or something. So let's pour this in here so you guys can see how much it made and what it looks like coming out. Turn that off. So I've got some markings on here. So this made about 10 to 11 ounces. So 10 to 11 ounces. Now what I will tell you is, from my experience with this so far, it makes a pretty strong cup of coffee. And so what I would say is this would be really good for 2 people if you actually heat up a little bit more water and then dilute it a little bit. That becomes a really good cup. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take one little sip of it. Now, it was just boiling, so it's hot. Oh man, good beans, freshly roasted and then freshly ground make a huge difference. I mean, this could definitely be drank without having to dilute it. Now you could just use this. I prefer to have this insulated one that I have. This one's a whole lot lighter than this one. Now, nothing wrong with this whatsoever. If that's what you want to use, go for it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead, add a little bit of water. That's gonna do 2 things. It's gonna dilute it a little bit, and it's gonna cool it down. It is warm. Got my spoon right here. I'm gonna go ahead and stir it up just to get it all mixed up. That should have cooled it down a little bit. Oh man, that actually is a really good cup of coffee. So the perfect ratio, if you go out and you do any looking. Now, I told you guys I've done a lot of research on this. 16 grams to about 8 ounces of water is about what most of the coffee, the baristas out there are going to tell you is about the right ratio. So 25 grams and it yielded about 11 ounces is a little bit strong, and that's why diluting it down with a little bit of water works really well. You get a great cup of coffee out of here. A big cup of coffee if you want to do a big cup in the morning. This thing will do it for you. Yeah, I am extremely happy with that. That is a good cup of coffee. Relatively easy. Cleanup is not horrible. Okay, so this is going to be hot for a while. So one of the ways you can do it is, again, use that insulated sleeve from your mug. Get that thing pulled apart. And then you can see the bottom of this top chamber is going to have just a little bit of sediment on it right there. So that's easy enough to clean off with a little bit of water. And you can see the grounds, because of what's called the bloom, they do expand a little bit as they take on that water. And so you can pop that out of there. You can use your spoon or whatever. There's going to be a tiny amount of water probably left in there, but that's not a big deal. So cleanup is just simply getting rid of these grounds. So I would use the same bag that I brought the grounds in, just dump them back into here. So what you can do, just turn it upside down. Now a little bit of that water that I said was in there did just come out, but the coffee grounds are coming out in there. And so now I can leave that open, set it in the sun, let it dry out, wring it out a little bit if I need to, but then I'm not leaving any grounds anywhere. Now that's a discussion we could get into. A whole nother topic in and of itself is disposal of the grounds. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about was how to brew a cup of coffee using this nCamp Cafe coffee maker. Now, is it something I'm going to take out on backpacking trips? No. I'll be completely honest. 17 ounces is a bit too heavy for me. But if I'm doing car camping, I think this would be a pretty viable option, something that I may definitely keep in the arsenal. It's not going anywhere. Let me just put that out there right now. Cost of this is $39. It's available on Amazon. It's available on nCamp. Go check it out. See if you like it. For 17 ounces, like 23 ounces if you include the cup, for car camping or doing any short trips, you know, if you enjoy a good cup of coffee, if you like Moka pot coffee, this may be something you want to check out. Well, I'm going to enjoy this. I'll see you guys down the trail.